Hello everyone, it's a pleasure to speak on this important topic that is close to my heart. But before I begin, let me first ask you, what do Jeanette Rankin, Hedy Lamarr, Malala Yousafzai and Greta Thunberg have in common? Jeanette Pickering Rankin grew up in America during a time where women could not vote. She set out to correct this by being the first woman to hold federal office in the US in 1916 and elected to a second House term. In January 1918, she opened congressional debate on a constitutional amendment granting universal suffrage to women that passed in the House, but was defeated by the Senate. And a year later, a similar resolution passed both chambers and eventually became the 19th Constitutional Amendment, granting women the right to vote. Rankin was undoubtedly an instrumental figure in the whole process. Now, for Hedy Lamarr, with both beauty and brains, she wore many hats during World War II. She was the inventor of frequency hopping that was offered to the US Navy to support World War II efforts, and was also a star on the silver screen. While her discovery did not take off during the lifetime of her patent, it planted a seed to some of today's most ubiquitous technology, including Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, cordless phones and cell phones, thereby enabling a more connected world that sometimes, perhaps many of us often take for granted because we've gotten so used to such convenience. Looking at more contemporary examples, Malala Yousafzai comes to mind and should be familiar to most. At the age of just 11, Malala was robbed of the opportunity to go to school in her hometown under the rule of the Pakistani Taliban. Instead of accepting her fate, she gave speeches, she wrote articles, and accepted interviews to share the plight of a community with the world in an attempt to change things. International interest unfortunately resulted in threats to her safety, and an assassination attempt was made when she was just 15. But in spite of everything, Malala continues to advocate for human rights and is now, in her 20s, a figure for peace and hope. Greta Thunberg, which is another household name, became well known after she protested outside the Swedish parliament at 15 to pressure the government to meet carbon emissions targets. What appeared to be a small campaign generated a global effect, inspiring thousands across the world. Greta has since capitalized on this recognition to draw attention to climate change with key leaders including heads of state at the UN, the Pope, and the President of the United States. She inspired 4 million people to join the global climate strike in 2019 in what was the largest climate demonstration in human history. So these and many more who came before them are women I respect and admire simply because they were brave enough to tackle large systemic problems or take the path less traveled. Oftentimes, maybe both, just for the greater good. While not all of them were recognized for their contributions in a lifetime, the world is now a better place because of them, and they have left invaluable lessons for the rest of us. There are many Jeanettes, Hedys, Malalas, and Gretas amongst us all. And one lesson we can learn from these women is that it is possible for minorities across demographics, whether it's gender, age, race, religion, to make important contributions. Nothing is impossible. And if I may borrow from Adidas' tagline and philosophy, impossible is nothing. But are these challenges, are there challenges that women face? But of course, always. Let me speak from my experience in the tech industry. Encouraging more women to join the tech space has been traditionally challenging. There are many possible reasons. Entrenched norms and structures around gender in tech extend upstream and can influence a student's choice of study. Fewer women in tech programs automatically skews the gender ratio in the talent pipeline of tech professionals and ultimately the gender distribution across the field. The snowball effect from education to employment is well documented. The gender makeup naturally influences notions of employment, working patterns, role models, boardroom representation, reinforcing the gender norms and stereotypes of the field. And of course, the cycle continues. Interested in understanding the reality of women in tech today, Kaspersky commissioned a study between 2018 and 2020 across Europe, North America, Asia Pacific, and Latin America to learn about how women perceive the IT industry and what their hopes were for gender equality in tech moving forward. There were some promising signs in general. Just over half agreed that the number of women in senior IT or technology roles in the organizations had increased between 2018 and 2020. More specifically, since the lockdowns in various countries, the move to working from home has helped women feel more autonomy in their roles, improving both their confidence and career prospects. Gender has also become less of a concern when applying for a position. 7 in 10 women believe that skills and experience were considered to be more important than their gender during the interview process for the first IT or tech role. But there's still much more to be done, as only 1 in 10 women working in a technology role reported working in a female majority team, compared to close to half of respondents who reported working in a male majority team. Being welcomed and respected is one thing, but having equal access to the career ladder is another. 44% of women still believe that men progress faster than them in the organization. Given that a similar percentage feel that a more equal gender split would be conducive to general career progression, we can deduce that headway is being made but only just getting started. These downsides deter some women from joining and others from staying in the field, actually. So the question is, what more can be done in the road ahead? In the past few years, there have been increasing calls to improve the representation of women in technology. Some initiatives of this nature generally rely on quotas to address long-running gender imbalances. While quotas can be a stopgap measure, they only go so far to shifting norms and attitudes around gender in the workplace. And if I were to take it far enough, setting quotas sit at the edge of tokenism, and I'm not quite comfortable with using quotas as a long-term solution. More must be done to facilitate retention and to provide equal pathways for career progression across genders. Circling back to women that I spoke about at the start of my speech, we need more role models that women can relate to, that can connect with, and help signpost the path into and throughout the tech sector. In Asia Pacific, half of the women surveyed agreed that a lack of other females in the industry made them wary of starting a career in IT or tech, which is 12% above the global average. This fear is compounded by over 2 in 5 women stating that they felt intimidated by the unequal gender split during the interview process for their first job in IT or tech. Fear, intimidation, and a lack of guidance can affect one's competitive edge in the application process. It is a bit of a chicken and egg problem to draw more women into the field through more female representation. However, I believe that initiatives like this one, organized by Training Vision, contribute to the solution by profiling females in this space, normalizing their experiences, providing a space to network, and hopefully showcase good examples of women for other aspiring women in tech to relate to. And I must thank Training Vision for this invitation to speak. In fact, this idea of giving back and nurturing the younger generation has been one of my lifelong passions. Fortunately for me, my company, Kaspersky, is a strong supporter of women in tech initiatives, which has enabled me to contribute to building a community and lending a hand to those looking to enter the space. For instance, we have a podcast series featuring women leaders across various functions in the company in the Asia-Pacific region. We have seminars for female students on cybersecurity and also partner local youth groups to mentor youths interested in the tech space. Initiatives like these energize me and make me hopeful that the small role I play will go some way to building a more equal, diverse workplace for all. Taking a step back, having more women in tech also brings tremendous benefits to the company and industry. A 2018 Boston Consulting Group study found that companies with more diverse management teams have 19% higher revenues due to innovation. Employees with diverse backgrounds bring to bear their own perspectives, ideas, and experiences, therefore helping to create organizations that are resilient and effective. And in the same year, Deloitte's survey of millennials found that 74% believe that their organization is more innovative when it has a culture of inclusion. This means that if businesses are looking to hire and sustain a millennial workforce, diversity, including gender diversity, must be a key part of the company culture. So things are changing for the better, I feel. And if you were to ask me what it feels like to be a woman in a male-dominated field, I'd say it doesn't bother me. And it doesn't bother me because I don't allow it to. Having a thick skin definitely helps. I've observed that women sometimes victimize themselves by being overly conscious about the fact that they have been outnumbered. So I'd say that a healthy dose of confidence is ultimately important. Let others judge you based on your capabilities and confidence, not your gender. If your environment doesn't allow you that opportunity, then change your environment. There are many organizations today which are far more enlightened and can allow you room to flourish. For me, in spite of being in a traditionally male-dominated space, there is respect across the company and with my counterparts. I think it helps that Kaspersky is actively trying to rectify the gender disparity, first with more young women entering internship positions who then have the opportunity to join full-time later on. Through these efforts, we now have an equal share of women in managerial and non-managerial roles, and I feel that this creates a positive effect in the culture, hiring approach, and diversity within the organization. As a final point, I believe that everyone, male or female, junior or senior, has a role to play to support women in tech, and every action counts. How you show up as an interviewer, how you support a junior through doubts or injustices faced at work, or how you approach your subordinate's request for flexibility in working arrangements arising from a childcare situation, for example, or simply lending a listening ear to a colleague goes a long way to building a culture that is inclusive of diversity and one that thrives and can be sustainable. So let's continue to support more women in tech. Be the agent for positive change. We can't do it without you.